Hi everyone, good evening. Thanks for coming out tonight on this gorgeous spring day, and welcome to Darien Library. My name's Erin Shea and I do the programs here. And I'd like to just briefly mention that programs at Darien Library are made possible by our annual Friends of the Library campaign. So thank you so much for your continued support to make programs like these available to the community. Tonight we have the third installment of our Spring Cleaning Get Organized series, which is organizing the entry and exit points of our home. We already heard about storage solutions and organizing with kids in mind, and in case you missed those programs, we do have the footage available on our website. And please join us on April 22nd for Organizing Others, for the disorganized people in your life who maybe you just couldn't get out here with you tonight. You can learn how to organize them on your own. And then Shop and Get Organized on Tuesday, May 7th. But tonight we're going to hear about how to organize those pesky areas in our home that always get so cluttered with things like gym bags and running shoes and bike helmets and coats. And it will be presented by Susan Lovallo, CPA and CPO of Clutter Solutions, and Jen Burke of JKB Organizing. So please join me in welcoming them.
Everyone. Hello. I'm Susan Lovallo, and I'm a professional organizer. And Jen and I are part of a group called the F.O.C.U.S organizers. We're 4 professional organizers and a closet designer. And we go out into the community and we do presentations about organizing, trying to raise public awareness and just help people. And we wanted to do this about organizing the entry and exit point of your home because so often that's such a bottleneck for people. Is that true for anybody here? Right? So what comes on the entry part of your home, right? What's coming in the door?
Keys. Mail.
Keys, mail. Coats. Boots. Kids' backpacks. Sunglasses. Sports equipment. Shopping, right? There's so many things, and it's easy for that point in the home that, that's our welcome. When we come into the house, there we are, and if we're faced with yesterday's stuff and the day before and the day before, we're like, as soon as we walk in the door, there it is, right? So if we can have that area really flowing and moving and organized, then when we come home at the end of the day, it's more welcoming, isn't it? So I have a question here, because I know that there's some people who may not be here of their own accord, but were maybe asked to be here nicely by someone else. So I want to ask you all a question. Do you want to be organized? You want to be organized. Okay. So on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being, I sort of want to get organized, being okay to be a little bit more organized, and 10 being, I want to get organized so badly. This is all I think about. I think about it every day. It's so important to me. I really want to be organized. So how many people are here like kind of a 1? Nobody. How many people are maybe like around a 5? Okay, we have some 5ers here. And how about 10s? Okay, so you really, really, really want to get organized, right? It's really important to you. What are the positives about being organized? Like, who cares? Why do you even want to do this? What are the positives? Sorry, what? Harmony. Saves time. Find what you're looking for. Lower stress. Lower stress or higher stress? Lower stress. If you don't like to organize, is that higher stress or lower stress? Right. So even if it feels like high stress doing the organizing, once you're organized, then it's low stress, right? So it's stress with a payoff. Okay? Yeah, so there's a lot of positives to being organized. But you're not? Why? Not staying on top of it?
Too many things to do.
Too many things to do, right? You're busy. What else? What other reasons are people not organized?
Things don't have a proper home.
Other people keep making messes.
Things that have a proper home, other people, right, sabotagers.
Yes.
Right? Not all family members are cooperative. That's what the next presentation is going to be about, getting those people on board, because do we want organizing to be the job of one person in a house? No, it's too much for any one person to take care of. It's a lot to take care of ourselves, and if we're taking care of 2, 3, 4, 5 other people, right, it's quite a bit. I hear all the time that people are tired, right? You come home at the end of the day or just in the process of your day, we're running around, we're busy, we're working, we're doing all kinds of things, and people feel really tired and I'm too tired to organize. Or people get so overwhelmed because they feel like the house or the office is out of control. And what happens is when people shift into overwhelm, everything looks the same. And that's why people say all the time, I don't know where to start. It's because everything looks the same. Okay. And what are your other priorities? Like, what else are you doing that you're not organizing? What are some of the other priorities that you have in your life that maybe prevent you or that become your reasons or excuses for not being organized?
Work.
You're working. What else?
Looking after toddlers.
You're taking care of your kids. What else are you doing? What are your other priorities in life that come before organizing?
Exercise.
You're exercising, right? You're probably cooking or taking care of your home,
Creating the mess in the first place.
right? You're just trying to keep up, right? Just trying to keep up, right? So what we want for organizing to be, because there's 2 ways for you to organize, right? One is that organizing is a project. And the other way is that organizing is a process. What's the difference between these 2?
One has a ending, beginning, a middle, and an end. Project.
That's the project. So this has a beginning, a middle, and the end, right? And then what happens when you get to the end? You kind of let it go, and it starts all over again, right? So it's project organizing, we call that. You go, you spend a Saturday afternoon and say, I'm going to clean up this entryway, I'm going to make it look better, right? And by next Friday, what happens? It looks the exact same, right? It just becomes a cycle, and it's not just the entryway, it's the piles of paper, it's the kitchen counter, right? It's everything. That's your organizing method, is you let it get kind of out of control, and then go in there and clean it up, and then it comes right back to where it started from, okay? But if you have a process, meaning you weave organizing into everything you do. So even though we're taking care of children and we're taking care of the house and we're cooking and we have all these other things to do, we have a lot of priorities, organizing becomes part of everything that we do. Okay? It's not just a jump in, fix it, and go away. It's all the time. And this way your behavior becomes organized as a process, right? It's part of who you are. It's part of what you do. Now, what does it take to be organized? Like what's one of the key ingredients to being organized?
Your vision of what you want to happen.
Yeah, you need a goal. Because your definition of organized is not going to be the same as the person sitting in the back row. It's really a very subjective term. Some people say to me, you know what, I just want to be 10% better and it would be relief and I'm fine with that. And other people really want to be pristine, right? Is there a right or wrong to that? There's no right or wrong to it, but you have to define it and have a clear goal and vision of what you want. What else does it take?
Time.
Definitely takes time, right? Now, what takes more time, doing it as a project or doing it as a process?
There are little minutes throughout the day if it's a process.
Yeah, if it's a process, you're doing little things all the time. And it almost becomes kind of invisible that you're organizing because it's just part of your movement and your behavior of what you're doing. Where here you're thinking, oh, I don't like to organize because I have to do it for hours. And even if you don't like to organize, are there people here who don't like to organize? Are there people here who do like to organize? Look at Jen and I. Right? You like to organize. You know, but if you're doing it if you don't like to organize and you do it in little pieces, 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 30 seconds, like little pieces, it's not quite so painful as spending your day off organizing. Right? Okay. One of the things you really have to have, one of the key ingredients to being organized is you have to really want this. This has to be in you to really want it. Because if we don't want something, it's very hard to make it happen. But is wanting it enough? What else do you need other than to really want to be organized? What's the other key ingredient that you have to have?
Enough closets.
Now here's an interesting thing about that, about the closet thing. So people say to me all the time, oh Susan, I would be organized if I had more closets. I'd be organized if I had more space. Right? A lot of people say that to me. Now, a lot of other people say to me, Susan, I'd be organized if I didn't have so much space. I'd be organized if I didn't have so many closets. Right? Either one. The point is, with organizing, one of our jobs here is to manage to the space that we have. Whether we have one closet or we have 10 closets, we're managing to that space. Okay? So, you know, we want to be organized, but we also have to have the action and behavior behind it. It's not enough to want it, because want it means we talk about it. Want it means we think about it. Want it means we complain about it, right? But it doesn't necessarily mean we do anything about it. It just means we want it, right? But you have to have the action, like you have to physically have the action. So I'm going to do an example of what a lot of people do in their entry and exit way, okay? So now here I have some stuff, right? So we'll say, you know, we're going to leave, we're going to come home at the end of the day, okay? So on a day like today, right, I started out this morning with a coat, don't need it anymore, right? And go to the gym. See, here's the gym bag, okay, that's coming in the house. And, you know, I always take my food with me, so here's my food bag. There we go. And of course I have my pocketbook, right? And maybe you have like your laptop or your briefcase, or you take work home with you, right? And then, of course, you can't go any place without your water bottle. How many people brought their water bottle? Right? I mean, this is part of the entry and exit of your home, right? Okay. And then, you know, I went to CVS, and now I have a bag of stuff. Right? So look at all the stuff. I look like I'm going on a day trip, don't I? But this is every day. Do you have this much stuff every day?
More or less.
More or less, right? I mean, this is our lives. We just have a lot of stuff. So this is what people do, okay? So we come home, here's the entryway, I'm walking through the door. Okay, now this is what I call the shedding method. So look, that's a trail. I mean, you can follow me and know where I've been, right? Now, does this person want to be organized? Right? They might want to be organized, but do they have the behavior? Is the action there? Right? So you might want to be organized, but are you willing to hang up your coat? Right?
As if you have to go to the bathroom.
I relate because I'm on 95 every day. Now here's some other things that here's something else that people do. Right? So, right, we have all this stuff. We're getting home at the end of the day. We're very, very tired. Been on 95. I have to go to the bathroom. Right? I have emails, I have phone calls, I have to make dinner tonight. Right? The kids want something. Right? There's all these things to do. So this is what else people do when they, at the end of the day. They walk through the door. Right? So here's everything. Same place. Right? So it's here. It's at the entryway. And then people just kind of walk away. And it's all left there. So what happens to this if you leave it here? it piles up. Now, if you do this on Monday, and Tuesday, and Wednesday, and Thursday, and Friday, when you get to Saturday, what kind of organizing do you have here? You have a project, right? Now, how do you make this a process?
Every day you make sure that that's up in its place.
Yeah, every day, right? So that's the action part of organizing, right? So I want to be organized. I don't want all this in my entryway, but that's not enough. The other piece of it is the action part, where you're actually taking all these things, right, and you're putting them away. So it's, we need both of those components. So we really want to look at that. And is it just you putting everything away? No, who else is putting away?
Everybody.
Your family's putting away, your kids are putting away. The dog can't put away, but everybody else can put away. Yeah, you can teach the dog a couple of things, right? But, we don't want this clog there. We really want to move out of that, okay? So we want to align what we want with our behavior. We have to have those two components, right? We have to have the action. Okay, so on your handout, now this was a study that I found that I thought was pretty interesting. They polled some people and they asked them a question. So we're going to just define this a little bit, right? So a comedy meaning amovie, right? We all know what a comedy is, right? It's just a movie that's very funny, okay? And then what they called a high brow art film. What would that be? It'd be like a documentary, something educational, something that we think is good for us, it's intellectual, that we learn about something new. Okay. Now, when they polled people and said, what would you rather watch tonight? A comedy or a highbrow art film? What do you think people said?
Comedy.
Tonight, they'd rather watch the comedy, right? And that makes sense, right? Because we want instant gratification. We want things to be fun. We're tired. We work hard, right? So we want that lighthearted thing. But when they asked the same group of people, what would you like to watch 2 weeks from tonight? What did they say? The art film. Why is that?
They felt they should.
It's less important.
They're aspiring to be a highbrow art aficionado.
Yeah. So they're pushing things off that they think, the perception is that the highbrow art film is good for us. This will make us smarter. This has some substance to it. This might be kind of nonsense or silly or whatever, right? But we don't consider this to be very intellectual. But it's fun, it's lighthearted, right? So people want that instant gratification now, right? So people would prefer, where are my answers here? People would like immediate rewards. That's why they pick the comedy. Does that relate to organizing? Yeah, right? We want immediate rewards, and that's why when we're tired and we get home at the end of the day, we're just kind of plunking everything down here and going on to the next thing, right? It's the same thing with organizing. People postpone things that we think are good for us. The highbrow art film is perceived to be good for us. We want to postpone that, right? We really just want to have fun right now. So we have these two decision-making components going on in our brains all the time. The impulsive and emotional, right, the comedy, versus the rational and the deliberate. So organizing is rational and deliberate. We have to do it, right? It's not impulsive. It's not always, instantly emotionally gratifying. It's not fun for a lot of people. I mean, it's fun for me. I do this, but right? I understand it's not fun for everybody. Okay, so we really need routines. When you get at the end of the day, that you have a routine of how you put things away. And when we have routines for us, or methods of doing things, it means that we want those things to go very quickly. We don't want to spend 45 minutes cleaning the entryway. We want to leave this in so that it's only a few minutes at the end of the day. So the more organized that area is, the more people in our family that are cooperating and that are on board, the faster this whole process is going to go. But if you do this even for a week or so, it becomes very seamless and very easy to do. Okay, any questions about that? Okay, so Jenna's going to talk to you about some structures for the entry and exit ways, how to make this work for you. Okay, thank you.
I have to apologize because I got something in my eye an hour ago and it hasn't worked its way out. So if I keep like doing this, that's what that's all about. So, and I don't wear contacts, so I'm not sure why that's at. Anyway, okay, so to reiterate what Susan told us, we want to find things with ease, right? We want to reduce our stress, and we want to make sure that we come up with a system that works, right? If we have a system that works, none of this is just going to end up being here. We're going to have a system in place where we know where to put it, right? Okay. Does everyone have a picture in mind of their house or their apartment of the space that we're talking about? So are you envisioning your mudroom? Are you envisioning your front entryway? Does everybody have the place in mind that we want to get organized? Okay, so think about that space as I'm going through my talk. But just for a point of reference, I'm going to be using a small mudroom. Okay, that's my point of reference. Okay. Now, how many of you, when you're going to organize your mudroom or your point of entry, know where to start? So if you say, okay, tomorrow I'm going to attack my mudroom and get it organized, do you know what that means? Do you know where you would begin? Yeah? What would you do first? Would you just start taking things out? Do you know if there's a system? No.
Yeah, I would sort through them.
Put away the things that you know when they go first.
Okay. Okay.
Codes, put those, everything you know already has in place, put those away first.
Okay.
And then you get left with the stuff that doesn't have a home. And then you deal with that.
Okay, I'm going to say something a little bit radical here, okay? I'm going to take you through sort of the life of an organizer, what Susan and I do every single day with our clients. We're going to show you sort of the mental part of it, okay? And some of the questions that you have to ask yourself before you can really start organizing this space or any other space that you have in your house, okay? Do you all have the handout here called Exit and Entry Organizing? Okay, so before we start attacking the space, which is really what we're inclined to do, we just want to start jumping in and taking things out, throwing things away, moving things to other parts of the house that don't belong. But before we get into the organizing part of it, there's so much more that we need to do. And I know some of you may not want to hear that because you just want to dive in and you just want to pull this stuff out. Okay, but if you can work with me through this process, I promise you that the outcome will be much greater on the other end. Okay? Okay, so the first thing we're going to do before we attack is we're going to ask questions. Okay? So what's our vision for the small mudroom? Okay? What is its function right now? What does it function as? It's sort of a dumping ground right now.
Hence the name mud room.
Exactly. But what is the ideal function? So think about this in your mind. You can write things down on a piece of paper. What's the function I want to have? Maybe I don't want to have it as a dumping ground. Maybe I want to take all the adult stuff out. Maybe I don't want it to be a sports room. You have to go through your mind what the function should be. What works in the space? Is there anything that works? let's say in the mudroom that you have. You could say, you know what, I really like the shelving that we put in with the baskets, so let's leave that, right? So we're going to leave everything that we like about the space, but think about what you hate about the space. What doesn't work in here? What don't I like? Think that through. You can write things down on a piece of paper, really simply. This is only taking a couple of minutes, okay? Who uses it? Do we all use it? Who do I want to, do the adults really want to use it? We have kids, maybe we want to leave it for the kids. So ask that question as well. And how do you want it to feel, right? How do you want it to feel? The way it feels now when you walk in there, or do you want it to feel a little bit more feng shui and peaceful, okay? All right, so we've asked ourselves those questions. We haven't done any organizing yet. We're just still thinking, okay? Once we've asked the questions, we're going to come up with our goals. Like Susan was saying, we have to have a goal for the space, right? So what is the goal? It's a pretty important space, right? Like Susan said, it's the first place you come in. It's the first place that you leave. All of your guests come over. It might be the first place that they see, right? So it's a really, really important space in our house that we need to get organized. Okay, so what is the goal? You want the space that you enter first to welcome you home. If that space can be peaceful and you can feel less stress, it will make a world of difference as you enter your house. And also as you leave. You don't want to be jumping over stuff as you're leaving, because that's sort of the last feeling you get before you walk out of the house, right? Okay, here's another goal. How about only the stuff that needs to be in this space stays? There's a lot of stuff here, but maybe there's some stuff that doesn't need to be here, right? So instead of saying, okay, this is what's in my mudroom, let's really think about, are we using all these things here, and do they need to be right where they are, okay? I want to get things off the floor. That's another one of my goals, okay? We're going to take things off the floor, which means that we need to find storage ideas. So whether it's hooks or it's bins or, and I'll show you some of those in a little bit, but whatever the solution is, we want to get everything up off the floor, okay? Okay. What else could be a goal? I want a place for things that leave the house, right? A lot of things leave the house, right? Susan mentioned a couple of those. Purchases that we make that we want to take back. Other people's things, right, that are in our mudroom that we need to return to them. How about library books? Take back library books, right? Okay. And then another goal is we want to have everybody help design the system. So whether it's 2 of you living at home or it's you have a lot of kids, you want everybody to jump on board with the system and organizing the system. Because if that happens, then everybody will buy into the system much easier. Does that make sense? If you just set it up and have your kids walk in, they're not going to understand the methodology behind why it was set up that way, and they're also not going to have any input. Kids actually all learn differently, they all organize differently, and they're going to want their things set up maybe differently than their sibling to make it work best for them. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay. All right, so the number one goal really is to find something when you need it, right? It doesn't have to look pristine, like Susan mentioned, but as long as you can locate something, that'd be a beautiful thing, wouldn't it? Yeah. I mean, Susan and I have our clients say to us all the time, your house must be so amazingly organized. And I have to say, I mean, I have piles. I have, some things sitting out on my countertop, but if somebody asks me for something or I need to locate something, I can find it. That's the key. That's the key to organization, okay? Okay, so we've asked some questions. We've defined some goals that we have for the space. Now what do we do? Now do we jump in? Almost. right? We're almost there. The one thing we want to do before we organize everything in that space is to get rid of the clutter and the things that we don't want. So we're only going to organize the things that we do want. Okay? Okay. So if you look on this sheet here, it says before you organize, kickstart the clutter fast. Fast. F is for fix a time. Okay? We need to schedule a time. And I know some of you are thinking, but wait a minute, I just want to get in there and do this. Do I have to go through this whole process? But you have to schedule a time, right? So you have a to-do list. I want to organize my mudroom. But that also has to go onto my calendar. So the family has 2 hours next Sunday morning where we're all together. Let's do it then. You're going to put it on the calendar. You're going to schedule it. Your kids are going to be really excited until you put that on their calendar. But you're going to explain to your kids also when you bring them into this that your life is going to be so much easier, right? They want that. You'll be able to find everything. When you leave the house, we're not going to get in any more arguments because you're going to know where your lunch is, and right? So it's going to bring them peace. Okay, A. A is for anything not used in 12 months or more. Goes out. Okay? And it can be donated if it's still in good condition. Plenty of places we can donate things to. Or it can go in the trash. One or the other. But it has to go if we haven't used it in 12 months. Okay? Okay. S. S is for someone else's stuff. Right? Do we all have things in our house that don't belong to us that we need to return, and you keep saying, oh, I need to get this back to my friend, but it just kind of sits there for a while? Okay, so all of those things leave as well. Okay? And T is for trash. That's easy. That's just the stuff that you absolutely don't want and it's not worth donating. Okay? So once we have gone through this kickstarting the clutter fast, then we're just left with everything in that space that we want to organize. So now we're ready. Now we're ready to organize the space. Would most people in this room have started the process right where I am now? Like just jumping in? Can you see the benefits of asking yourself these questions and trying to see a vision for the space before you just jump in and organize it? Okay. Okay, so page 2 talks about the specific plan. Okay, so this is everything that fits in the mudroom, right? Jackets, hats, gloves, briefcases, backpacks, library books, shopping bags, sunglasses, umbrellas, and the list goes on, right? Okay, so when we look at our specific plan, we have to remember what our goals were, right? What were some of the goals that we talked about? First goal was only what needs to be in the space stays, okay? So I'm going to look at the list of things that are in my mudroom, and you know what? My purse doesn't need to be there. The briefcase doesn't need to be there. I can find another location for those things. I think it's more important that the kids have a little bit more space in there, if you have kids, and I can take my purse and put it on my little desk. I don't need to throw it in the mudroom, okay? Keys. Keys may not need to go in there. Maybe you like to hang them on a hook. Maybe you like to put them in a little basket like this, like I like to do, right? You can put your sunglasses in here. You can put your keys, all your little knickknacks. And this is your basket. You can put it on your desk or on a kitchen counter on the side somewhere. Okay, so, oh, you know what? One thing I didn't put on here, which is really important, is sports bags. For those of you who have kids, I mean, they can take up an entire entryway, an entire mudroom, and then some. So if you have the space, you can always come up with a storage solution for a sports bag. There's so many solutions out there. But if you don't have the space, I suggest you come up with another home for it. Maybe in the garage. Maybe there's a closet somewhere. So instead of just walking in the door and dropping a big hockey bag which is enormous. My kids don't play hockey, but I've seen them. They take up the whole space, right? So maybe we can move those out, all right? So that's part of the plan. We're going to move those things somewhere else. Okay. What else do we want to accomplish? We want to get things off the floor. Okay, shoes. My shoes are all over the floor. What do I do? Okay? There are a lot of different solutions for shoes. Maybe you want to have a bench and you want to have baskets underneath with shoes. Maybe you want to divide it by household member. You know, so one is for mom and dad and one is for, you know, each of the kids. Again, depends on how much space you have. So everybody's situation is going to be a little bit different. Maybe you only want to put 2 pairs of shoes each in the mudroom and put the rest upstairs that you're not wearing very often, right? Maybe you want to move or put shoes in one of these fancy little shoe holders, right? Behind a door. Maybe you have a door set up in your entryway or your area where you can hang this off of the back of the door and your shoes can stay there. So we're thinking this through, okay? Where do I want these shoes to be? Okay. What else is on the floor? Backpacks. Somebody mentioned backpacks. Okay. How did the kids work? Do they want them to sit maybe on a bench? Do they want to have a hook? Do they want to keep them in their room? Probably not. They probably want to put it in that entryway. But it's got to be a good solution for the child, right? So the hook's got to be low enough. Maybe they want a cubby. A lot of people have cubbies. Some people love cubbies. Some people hate cubbies. They take up a lot of room, but then it's defined for each child. Again, depending on the family and the children, that may or may not work. Okay, so those are some of the things that are on the floor. Umbrellas is another one. How many of you have trouble with umbrellas? They're everywhere, right? No? Okay. Well, we can get those out too, right? We can even put those in something like this. Does anyone use one of these, by the way? Okay, so this hangs over the door, and it has hooks. But if you don't have a door, it can hang on the wall. And some people will say, yeah, but that's so ugly. I hate the way it looks. But then, you know, some moms will say, this is the best thing that's ever happened to me because, you know, my kids each have a row, or I can put all their hats and gloves and scarves in here, or I can put flashlights, and I can put suntan lotion and their sunglasses. I can put all their baseball hats in here, or I can put shoes. So this is kind of a multi-purpose organizer, which works great in a mudroom. Again, you can hang it on the wall, and it serves a great purpose. Okay, things that leave the house. So what leaves the house? Returns, other people's things, library books, donations. You need a solution for those, right? So what can you do with those? Maybe you want to have a basket, one basket that you put right by your door, in your mudroom. Sorry?
I keep it in the car.
Keep it in the car, but that's right, because this should travel from the car back into your house, right? So you can put all your library books in here, you can put your things that you need to return, and then you take this out of your house when you're leaving, and you bring it in your car, and then you can, in an ideal world, get all those things returned, right? So a basket doesn't have to be a laundry basket, it can be a pretty basket, but just a place where you can put all of those things that need to go elsewhere. Instead of just stacking them or piling them somewhere in the house. Contain them, right? Okay, so what else do we have? Off-season. Okay, so I had a client this morning. We worked in her mudroom, coincidentally, right? And I was telling her about this presentation. And she said, you know, I have this problem because I want to keep all of my off-season in the mudroom, but I don't have enough room for it. And all I did was look up and I went, yeah, no, you do. You do. Like, she had cubbies, right? So 4 cubbies. 2 for her, 1 for each kid, and then 1 for her, 1 for her husband. And on the top of the cubby, it was high, but there was, you know, 2 feet of space, which wasn't used. So what we did was we took these big baskets and we put everything in there. Gloves, mittens, scarves, boots, her little kids' jackets, and we put all that up. So when you switch out during the seasons, it's so much easier to have it right there instead of having to run to another closet or having to run into the attic or wherever you stored it, right? So point being is always look up. There is so much storage space that we don't use that's up high. I guarantee if you go home and you look at a space in your house, you go, yeah, I could probably put shelving and then I could have individual baskets. I actually put the shelving in my own mudroom. So easy. It's called Alpha and it's at the Container Store. So I put that in. And then lining up on all the shelves, I bought these fun baskets at Container Store, which I love. And I just labeled each one. One is suntan lotion, one has rags, one has light bulbs, one has batteries. And I created so much extra space that I didn't really realize I had, you know? So always look up. Okay, what's something else that comes in? Oh, mail. Do most people put their mail on their kitchen counter, or right when they walk in the door, like in a mudroom or a foyer? Where do most people put their mail? On the kitchen counter. Okay. Does it sit in a basket or does it sit in a bin or anything? Okay. Here's an idea. All right. Susan's seen this like a million times, right? I call this the landing pad, okay? So instead of throwing your mail, my example is the mudroom. Instead of throwing my mail on a bench in the mudroom, maybe I have this, which can sit in my kitchen, so it looks pretty, right? But I can sit it on a counter or on a side table or a desk somewhere, and all of the mail lands in here, okay? The other thing that lands in here is everything that comes home from the kid's backpack. So that's a whole other presentation, but that's getting the child programmed to take the papers out of their backpack that they need to have you see, whether you need to sign a permission slip or write a check, right? How many times do we do that? They need to put their papers in here, okay? So all of the mail and the paper clutter can leave the mudroom as well, okay? And you have your landing pad, which you can take care of at the end of the day. You have everything here that you need to go through. Mail, kid stuff, stuff from your spouse, okay? Okay, any questions so far?
Where'd you get that basket? You like the basket?
Oh, this one?
Yeah. That very one.
I've had this for so long. I think that I got it at Pier 1. Yeah. And you know what? I also have a round one that I love.
It's held up here, what about?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's fantastic. You know where else you can get really nice ones like this is Pottery Barn.
Yeah, occasionally.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so maintenance. Like Susan said, right? It's a process, right? Not just a project. So we have to all be on board that we really want to do this,
Is
right?
there something in between? I'm serious. You know, like in between the project and the process. It doesn't have to start with P, but you know, something that.
Because that would be organized.
Right, it's true, right? That's the whole point. You know, where it's like maybe not so much of a, it's just like little mini project, but the process isn't, because, I mean, some of us just aren't programmed to think of that stuff at the, maybe call it ADD, I don't know.
Right.
But to do it all the time is a skill that
Yeah.
maybe not everybody has. Is there something that, like, that you've been able to break down into sort of beginner steps? To
Well,
go from project to process?
I would say, I mean, start with something really small, okay? Let's say it's...
Like a junk drawer?
Exactly. Let's say it's your junk drawer. Let's say it's your child's backpack. pick one
Here's
thing.
my purse, do you want to try it?
Yeah.
Look at her purse.
Right. I did a presentation on emptying your purse. It was really funny. But anyway, it could be your purse. So start with something really small and practice with that. It could be the tiniest little thing. It could be a tiny, tiny little drawer. Okay? The process.
The things like what
Is-
triggers me knowing that I have a project is that it's gotten beyond. You know, like to do the, like it doesn't even occur, the process. Like it's a project or it's, I'm not aware of it. You know what I mean? Like,
The key is just setting up the right system. So if you can find the right system, the process is just going to kind of unravel on its own. But it has to be the right process. For example, if you're, some people like to have all their stuff out where they can see it, like this, right? Some people hate this. And they need to have everything in bins where you don't see it, right? So depending on how you organize, because we all organize differently, you're going to come up with the right solution, the right, organizing solution, and you keep changing until you find the right one that works. So it really is, it's a process to even try and find the right system, right? I mean, we set up systems for people all the time. Sometimes they don't work, and then we switch them up because we realize that that doesn't work for their personality. So it's just constantly trying to find the right one. Once you do, and you hone in on that,
have you ever just thrown up your hands and be like, I can't help you? No, I mean, like it's anybody
No.
gone, okay.
anybody, everybody can be
There's
helped.
a way, okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, there's a style, there's a way for everything. Yeah. But we have to maintain this. Now that we've, asked all these questions and we've set the goal and we've organized it and we've come up with a solution like, okay, I think I want to add shelves and I want to have bins, or maybe I want a bench and I want to put baskets under with shoes, whatever you've designed, we have to make sure that we maintain the system or it's just going to fall apart, right? The ideal would be on a daily basis, right? That would be the ideal. The kids have to jump on board, the spouse has to jump on board, and take a few minutes at the end of the day to organize your things, right? I had a client, it's very funny, something hanging in her mudroom, and it said something like, if you open it, you close it. If you take it out, you put it away. And if you take it off, you hang it up. And it was so funny. And it was just on this big piece of paper. And the kids, it was always staring at them. And it was just really cute. It was like her way of saying, like, okay, this, I don't care that you're 4 or you're 6. You can do it, So daily would be the ideal. But if you don't get to do it daily, at least change with the seasons, right? I mean, if it's the entryway, not everything needs to stay there year round. So right now we're switching out summer and winter, right? So we don't need to have all of that in the foyer or all of that in the mudroom, right? So if you can't organize on a daily basis, at least make sure that you change with the season, okay? Move everything out that's for winter because suddenly we're in summer, right? And then everything has to be there for the summer. Okay, any questions? For Susan or for myself on anything. You can ask a question about your specific area that you're thinking about, if you want to ask a question. I hope this was helpful to you. I'm trying to give you guys an idea of how an organizer thinks and that you can't just dive in, that you really have to go through a process before you start organizing, instead of just running out and buying, bins or baskets or, something to try and help the situation, and quite often it just adds to the clutter. So before you start with that part of the process, go through the beginning process, okay? Yeah.
I've looked for a bench for my foyer to keep boots out of the way. And the smallest width that I had found is 36 inches and my space allows for 30.
Did you look online?
Yeah.
Did you do a Google search? You really looked? Yeah,
And we might even need a carpenter to special make it.
Right.
At the Woodpecker in Stamford.
sorry.
Woodpecker in Stamford.
Oh.
It's on Hope Street. They
Okay.
have various
shop.
sizes.
Oh, it's across from the fishbowl.
Yeah.
You know what? They're out there. It's just a matter of locating it, finding it. I would say online is a really good bet, you know? Okay, yeah.
What are your thoughts about having kind of a technology landing pad in your mudroom for your cell phone, charging stations, all that kind of stuff?
I love it. Yeah. Again, that might work for you. Maybe you feel like you want to take a lot of that stuff out with you when you go. And is that what you're thinking? Like you want it close to the door, so?
Yeah, and maybe mudroom's too far because sometimes you want to hear the phone ring and things like that. But rather than clutter up your kitchen counters with phones and cords and everything like that,
Yeah.
you know, have you guys come across any kind of like one charges all, you know, charger or
Yeah, like Sharper Image or Brownstone, they have those really attractive looking charging stations where you put all the cords in there and then you rest the phones on them. It doesn't, you know, it looks like
Yeah.
they're made out of wood and they're a little more attractive looking. They're meant to
Right.
look like they belong in your decor instead of just a bunch of wires and stuff all over the place.
In my house, I just have one of these.
I have 20.
Okay. And one of them is just for electronics.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so I have they're like little zip bags, cool bags that I found that go, you know, just thrown in here. One is for Colin, one is for me, one is for my other son, one's for my husband. And we just have all of the cords in one place.
Yeah,
Otherwise, they live everywhere.
Yeah.
They live everywhere. They take over. It's like they breed. It's
Yeah.
crazy, right?
Yeah.
So if you can find one place, one basket or
Right.
one, you know, bin with a lid, whatever it is that appeals to you, keep it all in one place. I'm all for it, whether it's in the mudroom, if that works for you, yeah. Whatever works. And if you put it in there and you realize, you know what, this isn't working in here, move it somewhere else.
Right.
Maybe change up the bin.